To start this demo, we will quickly tour a sample CRM application for a fictional wine distributor. The developer embedded Logic Composer into the application to help them meet their delivery timelines without compromising end-user functionality. I could spend an hour going over all this functionality, but as it is similar to other BI tools, I'll only spend about 5 minutes. Most of the demo, however, will focus on the unique differentiators of Logic Composer. During this demo, we will role-play two personas, the two you most care about, your end user and your developer. So let's log in as an end user. This sample application has an out-of-the-box visualization embedded seamlessly into it. It provides the typical interactivity you'd expect from a BI tool, like drilling. We could select Catherine here and zoom into the variety of wines she sells. Then if we'd like, we could get details for her top-selling wine. The application also highlights an embedded custom visualization that inherits all of Composer's interactivity. For example, I can filter on white wine sales to compare them year over year. Many developers find Composers powerful and flexible enough to insert entire dashboards directly into their application. These benefit from the highest level of pre-built interactivity, like being able to easily filter across visualizations based on a selection. For example, I could click on Rosé, filter the entire dashboard on Rosé. So if you like, you could analyze Rosé all day. Now, to support custom workflows, Logic Composer allows for easy two-way communication between the hosting application and the embedded components. These three visualizations come from Composer. The rest of the page is the hosting application. I can communicate from the hosting application to the embedded content. I could also communicate from the embedded content back to the hosting application. For example, if I click on Canada, you can see it update to Ontario's weather. And if I click on France, you can see it update to Paris's weather. Rainy in Paris. With this two-way communication, Logic Composer could support the workflows you need within your applications. Composer also fully supports security and personalization. As VP of Sales, I can see all the data. But if I log in as John Simmons, his view is automatically limited to just his 3 direct employees. Furthermore, the visualization reflects his preferences. John likes donuts. And the interactivity allowed has been reduced to his perceived skill level. He only could see details. So Logi adapts to the security requirements of your underlying data and the preferences and skills of your end users. So that was a very fast tour of the user experience. You saw data interactivity, full communication with the hosting application, and sophisticated personalization. I went quickly because these features are table stakes for any decent embedded solution, and Logi clearly has you covered. Let's log out. So you just saw the kind of experience you can enable for your end users. But those end users are greedy, and now they want up-to-the-minute sales data. So let's switch personas to one of your developers and use Composer's effortless authoring to incorporate that new stream, make a dashboard, and embed it in the CRM application. I'll log into the Composer interface. And this is the Composer homepage. It has been designed to streamline your development workflow. Here you can make connections, define sources, create powerful reusable visualizations, and arrange those visualizations into highly interactive dashboards. Connections store configuration for some of the sources we use, but for a real-time source, we can start by directly defining the source. Here are the existing sources. We would like to add one. We'll use the Upload API and give the source a name. When we hit Next, we're taken to the Sampling tab. The developer provides a sample of the data coming from the stream. They can type it, or they could simply upload the file. When I click Preview, Composer inspects the sample and comes up with defaults for field types and formats. We could adjust these on the next tab. The Fields tab allows us to do some light data prep, like change column names, adjust format for numbers, add derived fields, calculations, or custom metrics. Next, we set the refresh schedule. As this data is pushed to us from a real-time stream, we don't need a schedule. Here is a great example of Logi Composer optimizing the development experience, the API Endpoints tab. Unlike analyst-centric BI tools that might hide this information 3 layers deep on a website, we provide easy reference information and code snippets right within the developer's workflow. Lastly, we configure a set of defaults around the visualization. These are the global default settings, and here is how we make any data source real-time. We enable live mode and configure refresh rates if needed. Below the global settings are a list of individual visualizations. They control the default appearance of each visual utilizing this source. This level of control has been designed specifically to empower software teams to customize the end user experience. Although Logi sets some reasonable initial defaults, only you understand how your customers are most likely to view and manipulate the data. For example, on the bar chart, you may know your customers typically want bars colored by average price. So you could set that up here. Also, you want it to fit in with your existing CRM application's look and feel. We could adjust the color palette here. By setting these visualization defaults, it helps provide consistency and simplifies the end user experience, giving your software teams ultimate control. So that was the last step for creating a source. Once we have our source, we could go to the library and make a dashboard. Here is a list of our current dashboards, and we could click here to create a new one. We create dashboards by adding charts. Let's add some charts from the new source we created, real-time wine sales. And let's pick that bar chart we configured. Perfect. The real-time data is already streaming in, and the color palette was picked up by the defaults on the source. But we could override the defaults. We can change the grouping from country to variety. By editing the visual, we are provided with a host of other controls that affect how this data appears and what functionality is available. Of particular note is this lightning icon. This panel is a great example of the developer's control over the end user experience. These granular controls allow you to define the level of self-service and dashboard interactivity available. They allow the developer to put up guardrails and tune the experience to the skill levels of your end users. For example, we could turn off some of the more advanced features, like actions and key sets. Once configured, we can name this visualization. Let's quickly add one more visualization, a tree map. Add chart, pick real-time wine sales, and pick tree map. Now we didn't pre-configure this visual, but we could do so here if we'd like. We could alter the color to have it match the rest of our interface. Maybe increase the number of colors we see. We could also adjust the functionality. Here, let's turn off almost everything so that the user is very limited in what they could do here, and we could use this to see the difference in functionality. So here you can see they could have just access to details, and here they have much more functionality available. Once we're done, we'll give this dashboard a name. And save it. When I save it, I'll make sure to share it so that everyone else can have access to it. We'll go back to the library. Another time saver for the developer is the ability to quickly generate a code snippet for embedding the dashboard. You'll notice there are no iframes here. Nothing says bolt-on like an iframe. This code utilizes our JavaScript API. The resulting iframeless code provides a superior end-user experience, better inter-app communication, all while being able to maintain security and performance. We could copy and paste this code directly into your app to embed this dashboard. Most applications go a step further, however, and use the same API to query the library and programmatically add newly created content directly into the running application. Our CM application works the same way. Let's show you how. You've seen our end-user experience and how easy it is to use Composer to author new sources and embed new dashboards. Let's log back into the CRM application as an end user and see the newly created dashboard. We'll highlight how your end user will be empowered with self-service analytics, but within the safe sandbox your software team just created. Let's log back in as Brian. As you can see, the dashboard we just created has been dynamically added to the CRM application. Let's open it. So Brian can see the data streaming in. Also notice that the granular controls on the user experience as tailored by your software team is enforced here. The wine map, he could only see details. But on the bar chart, he has much more functionality available. The developer also tailored the interactions on the heat map to limit grouping. These are not enabled. But Brian can easily regroup on the bar chart. So he could regroup, for example, by country. So Brian is in the sandbox, but is still empowered to do self-service analysis. We'll explore everything from changing and configuring visualizations, to adding new charts, to ultimately creating a dashboard from scratch. Logic Composer could allow the end user to easily view their data differently. Brian can start by clicking Edit Visuals. Maybe Brian prefers horizontal bars to vertical, so he could change that here. And maybe Brian would like to see a reference line for his 2020 quota. And he could adjust that here. Brian may also then want to focus the heat map on just the top countries above quota. He could adjust that by limiting the number of countries seen to the top 5. Next, let's see how Brian could add additional charts. Maybe Brian wants to determine if gender affects type of wine purchased. He could search our reusable gallery for an appropriate chart, maybe one that contains gender. And with a single click, quickly get answers to his question. We could adjust the way this looks to take up the whole bottom of the dashboard. Now sometimes end users don't like anything you've created. Brian happens to be one of those. But fortunately, he can create a dashboard from scratch. He could click the side panel here and create an entirely new dashboard with our embedded dashboard creation workflow. The process is pretty straightforward. Brian could start by clicking Add Chart, saying he wants to use the sales data, and clicking the bar chart. And this will give him a breakout of countries by volume. Next, he might want to add a donut chart comparing variety of wine. And finally, if he wants to see details regarding employee contribution, he could add a pivot table in the same way. So you've seen how Logic Composer provides your end users with a flexible and easy embedded self-service experience. Yet your developers still enjoy precise control over this experience. Throughout this demo, the Logi Z engine has been behind the scenes. It streamed in the data, controlled the interactivity, and made the visuals possible. But now I'd like to focus on some truly differentiating benefits of the Z-Engine and its smart data connectors. Let's say Brian wants to learn more about the wines that are selling by adding in wine reviews data. The wine reviews are in a modern big data source that might typically require a special request to integrate, or worse, might prompt your end user to extract the data and analyze it outside of your control. But with Logic Composer and the innovations in the Z-Engine, Brian can stay within your application and do it himself using the same self-service methods he's already learned. So let's start with that dashboard we created. And as before, we'll click the plus to add new content. We'll choose this new source called Wine Reviews. And before I add the visualization, I'd like you to pay special attention to its rendering. This is a big data source, and as such, the Logi Z-Engine takes a very unique approach to loading it in. It leverages a proprietary technology we call data sharpening. This enables the end user to see the shape of the data as it renders and even take action before it's done if they wish. Let me adjust this a little bit. That looks better. Another powerful capability of the Z-Engine allows it to perform analysis across multiple data sources. So even though the wine reviews and the real-time data are all coming from different sources, we could logically link them with this chain icon up top. Create a cross-source link, and we give it a name, like countries, which is what we'll link on. And then we'll join the wine reviews country field to the real-time wines country field. So now we could analyze the combined data. For example, we could view this bars chart by country and then filter by a selected country. Let's say maybe Germany. And you'll notice the entire dashboard now reflects Germany's information. Lastly, these wine reviews are stored in Solr, which is a search-based big data source. As such, the Smart Data Connector can take advantage of some unique source-specific capabilities, namely keyword searches and facets. For example, you could look for all the reviews containing the word fruity. Here you can see all those reviews. Also, I could search for facets. You'll notice that Germany has already been selected because we filtered the dashboard on it. But if I'd like, I could also add Austria. Now this functionality is in addition to our standard interactivity. I can still zoom, for example, by selecting the word fruity and drilling to the wines that are considered fruity. So the takeaway here is that Riesling is a very fruity wine. And the Z-Engine is super cool. You've seen the Z-Engine stream in real-time data, provide data sharpening, join disparate sources, and, with search, surface some unique underlying functionality of your data architecture. These capabilities not only empower your developers, but also your end users. So let's talk about our architecture. The Logic Composer architecture is built from the ground up with containerized cloud deployment in mind. Each green icon is a microservice that can scale horizontally. They can be dynamically instantiated based on load to meet your performance and availability targets, or independently brought down when not needed to reduce cost. The Smart Data Connectors are specifically designed to leverage the unique capabilities of each storage technology. For example, you saw how the Solr connector enabled search-based analytics and data sharpening. The Z-Engine uses push-down processing through these connectors to maximize the value of your existing data architecture. Lastly, these microservices expose the strength of our embedding API through a series of RESTful services. In fact, everything you've seen today, including our own interfaces, has been built using these services. We ship Logic Composer with Swagger installed. All API calls are documented and made available here. You could use it to explore some of these capabilities. Here you see APIs for accounts, actions, and attributes, branding, connection types, currency, favorites, filters, you name it, it's there. One service endpoint I'd like to call out specifically is the customization endpoint. It allows a developer to completely customize the interface through themes. Themes let you change almost everything about the look and feel of the embedded content. Let's take a look. We could actually call this API right from here to see a list of available themes. So we click try it out and execute it. And you can see that there are 3 themes that came from querying the live system right now. One of them is the wine demo theme, another is modern, and lastly we have the dark theme. Of course, you can make your own themes too. Our CRM application has been written to make the API calls behind the scenes to activate this theme. So for example, we could just click right here and see what the entire application looks like in dark mode. So you can see how your software teams have ultimate control over the end user experience. In summary, you've seen our end user interface and how easy it is to configure new sources and author new visualizations and dashboards. We can empower your customers to modify these dashboards through self-service, even against what would normally be complex sources, freeing up your development teams. And lastly, how we enable performance and availability while still giving you the APIs to have the flexibility you need through our modern architecture.